Hi, this is Donna. Welcome to DT Paper Crafts. In today's video, I've made a set of 3 treat boxes. These are 3 inches square and 1 inches deep, and they open at the top like so. And these boxes are all connected together to create a Jacob's Ladder effect. I have only made the project with 3 boxes, but the more boxes you use, the more effective I think it would look. It's not a tricky project to put together once you understand the flow of the ribbons and the gluing. So let's get started. Each of my boxes is 3 inches square and 1 inches deep, and I'm making 3 in total. You could obviously make more and change up the size if you so wish. The starting cardstock is 8¼ inches, so I've used the full width of an A4 sheet of cardstock. You could use the full width of US letter, it just means you'll have a wider glue tab at the end. So as I say, this is 8¼ inches by 5½ inches. Along the long side, score at 3, 4, 7, and 8, rotate, and on the short side score at 1/2, 1½, and 4½. Fold and burnish along all of your score lines. Take your scissors, have the piece in a landscape orientation with the 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch glue tab over on the right hand side, and I'm going to start by creating the bottom or the base element of the box by cutting up each of the vertical score lines up to the horizontal. I'm then going to remove this small rectangle on the right hand side, and I'm going to just take a wedge from the sides of the 2 smaller tabs. Rotate to the portrait orientation. I'm going to take a wedge from the end of this glue tab. Rotate, I'm going to cut down the verticals to the 2nd horizontal all the way along. Like so. Rotate the piece back, and I'm going to remove rectangle at the bottom in this bottom right hand corner like so, and take a wedge from the end of that glue tab. I'm going to cut away the end rectangle in the next section. Let's fold this piece out of the way. I'm going to cut up and remove this 2 sections in their entirety. So this will be the front notched section of the box, like so. So we currently look like this. I'm going to remove the end rectangle from this section, like so. These 2 sections here are going to be the inner flaps, which are just going to go inside the box. So I'm just going to take a wedge from the ends of those. And because it's my personal preference, I'm going to round off the corners of the tab, which is going to sit down inside the box. Now I will add a notch into this here. If you're going to add a notch, depending on what type of tool you have to do that, you might want to add your pattern paper on and then cut the notch whilst the piece is flat, or you might be able to make up the box and then cut the notch. It depends what type of tool you have to create the notch, if that's what you're going to have. So we can now make up the box. So very simply, I'm going to add glue onto the glue tab. I'll fold over this left hand side like so, add some glue onto the glue tab, then pull over the right hand side to form the box, like so. Fold in the 2 side tabs at the bottom, This is the front of my box, so this is the last section I'm going to fold down. I'll use construction glue for this element, so let's add glue onto the 2 tabs, and then I can add glue onto this section and fold down the last section of the base of the box. So that is our box fundamentally made, like so. I'm going to add on the pattern paper, and I have 2 pieces which are 2 3/4 of an inch square for the front and the back, and then I have 4 pieces which are 2 3/4 by 3/4. That's my 3 boxes ready for the next stage. I've cut myself 3 lengths of ribbon. These are each 20 inches. I will tell you how much of it I actually use for these size boxes. The first thing to do is to place your boxes so that you've actually got the lids in the top, so that we're putting the ribbon on horizontally rather than vertically, and then we've got no danger of wrapping the ribbon around the lid area. So the lid and my notch is here. So I'm going to start by laying 2 sections of ribbon out so that they run from across to the left hand side, and then I have another piece which is going to sit in the middle roughly, and that is going to run across to the right. I'm going to just pull that out of the way and work on one piece of ribbon at a time. My box is sitting on top of my ribbon. I'm going to just tidy up the end. And the first thing we want to do is secure the ribbon onto this side section. You want to make sure that you use very strong adhesive, and find an adhesive which will work depending on whether you're using ribbon or binding. I'm going to use my construction glue. I'm going to put a line of glue, and I'm doing this by eye rather than measuring out, and this first piece of ribbon is going to sit across like so. So that's one piece. I'm going to take the next piece and I'm going to adhere it onto this end like so. I'll add it roughly the same distance from the side. Make sure you get rid of any excess glue. You don't want any glue to be anywhere that it shouldn't be for this project. So that's our first 2 pieces of ribbon. Then I'm going to add the glue in between the 2 in the middle, like so. And the third piece of ribbon is going to run across in this direction, like so. So that's our first set of ribbons attached. 2 ribbons are across the top, and my central or my middle ribbon has come under the bottom like so. I'm going to tip the box up. I'm going to pull this ribbon across the top like so and glue this section into place. Now you don't want to pull your ribbon too tight, but at the same time you don't want big gapes like so. My understanding is if you pull the ribbon too tight, you won't get a proper flow of the boxes moving. So this central or middle ribbon is going to be adhered like so. Okay, and make sure you get rid of any excess glue, because otherwise you'll end up with things sticking where they shouldn't stick. So if we lay this one down, this central ribbon is glued here, runs underneath, and then it's also glued on this side. So that's going to come across the top like so, and the 2 top and bottom ribbons are going to come across like so, and at the moment they are only glued onto this right hand edge of the box. So we'll pull those across. We're going to take the next box. I'm going to turn it around, my notch, because this one, the opening is at this end. I'm going to put the opening at this end and flip it over so my notches are both at the underside, as it were, and sit this one on top. I'm just going to flip it up so we'll work on this single ribbon first. So this ribbon is now going to be adhered here, like so. I'm going to pull that across and secure that into place. I'm not pulling it tight, but at the same time I don't want any gaping. So that's that one in place. Now I'm going to flip the box over. So on this side you'll have one in the centre, and then I'm going to adhere the ribbon across here and across here. Now do bear in mind the ribbon that you're using. You can see here my ribbon does have a top side and an underside, so if you have double-sided ribbon, fantastic. But I'm not too unhappy with the look of this. I'll adhere the bottom one into place, like so. Just let everything dry. Make sure you get rid of any excess glue. So now I'm going to turn these two boxes over. So I've got my two ribbons on the left and my single ribbon on the right. So we'll bring those across the front of this box. So we sit like so, and I'm going to take my third box. It opens from this end. My notch is here, so I'm going to flip it over, sit that on top, like so. I'm going to add here, make sure that your ribbon doesn't get twisted. So I'm going to flip it up like this. So I'm going to adhere this one here and this one across here. Flip the piece over, and now I'm going to glue this single one into the middle here. I'm going to trim off the ribbon like so, and then you don't want to test the box at all until the ribbon is completely dry, because the whole thing will just come apart. You could of course continue your ribbon so that it goes across the front of the box if you want, and any additional boxes you add you would do in the same vein as we've done. So this ribbon would come across from this direction, this one from this direction, your next box would go on top, and you would keep adding boxes as you so wished. The ribbon, I've trimmed off 11 inches of the ribbon. 20 inches was a lot more than I actually needed, but I would rather have more than I needed rather than get midway through the project, and that is working on 3 boxes. So each of my boxes can open like so. All the lids are this side, and they can all be opened independently like so. So this is how the piece looks, and you can see that the boxes are flipping down. Hopefully that's catching that. That is creating the Jacob's ladder. Now this is obviously with the boxes empty. I will try it with the boxes with some contents inside. So I have some plastic rings in there. I've got some metal rings in this one and some metal hooks in this one. So I will test it. And obviously, and that does still work. But I would say, obviously, it has got some weight to it. So you will need to make sure your ribbon is really secure, depending on what you're going to put in it. But that has worked. I'm really happy with how this has come out. I think for some sweet treats for Christmas, it's a really lovely idea. And if you've got anyone who loves kinetic movement, wants to understand how things work, or just like something a little bit fun, I think this is an ideal set of gift or treat boxes. So there we have today's project, something a little bit different, but as I said, I'm really thrilled with how this project has come out. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel, and until next time, thanks for watching.